Hello and welcome to Newcastle on a very rainy and horrible cold looking day outside. So today definitely inside, just trying to finish it off. SB 5422. I've been building this bike for a couple of weeks, just on and off when I can. Work's very busy, so haven't had much time for bikes recently. But I'm really pleased how well this one has come back together. I'm loving that buttery smooth super record headset there. You don't get headsets like that now. However, that's not what we're here for today. On Friday I fitted the cables. Cabling is a whole different topic on its own. I'll cover cabling quite often on blog posts and maybe even done like a video on it. I don't know if I've done that before, but when you build a bike, a quality bike like this, there are two areas that you shouldn't really skimp on. It's not just a case of bolting bits to a bike. It's about getting the detail right as well. And the detail comes not just in getting cable lengths right where you cut them off. It's not just about getting all the parts in exactly the right place. It's about how your cables are cut, the length of the cables, how they flow down the bike. It's also about how you finish the handlebars as well. My voice just went very croaky there, sorry. So, you've built your pride and joy, you've got everything right. Why not just destroy it by making a hash of taping the handlebars? Don't do that. Take your time and get the detail right. So before I move on to taping the handlebars, here's a little primer. Just a little bit of theory about why you should tape bars in a certain way. I'll just mention, we are in the middle of a lockdown. Hairdressers and barbers are closed, so how's everybody's hair doing? Mine's getting a bit too long, I'm getting a bit too agitated with it, but it is what it is. So, back to handlebars. This is a set of handlebars that came off SB 8851. This bike had done a couple of 100 miles. And as you can see, it's been taped from the top down to the bottom. And people do that because they don't want to bother putting finishing tape around the top. They would rather just tape from here down to the bottom and stuff any excess into the end of the bar. It does make it neat to appear. However, that is the issue. When you're on your bike, your body weight is proportioned between your saddle and your handlebars. Some of your weight goes back through the saddle. Some of your weight comes forward through your shoulders, down your arms, to your hands, to the handlebars. So when you're leaning forward on your handlebars, your body weight is coming down and transmitted through your hands to your handlebars. And your natural tendency, the weight will push your hands out over. And as your hands get pushed out over, it will take the tape with it. Now if you tape from the top of the bar, you'll have this little leading edge visible to your hand. And as your hand gets pressure put on it, it will start to push that tape down the bar and it'll pick up. You can feel it there. You can just pick up the edges of that tape. And before long, that's what will happen. So your beautifully presented bike will look naff because the handlebars are just unraveling. Another thing people do is, if they do tape from the bottom to the top, they just don't finish them nicely. I mean, this handlebar might have had some sort of tri-bar system on, whatever they've had on, low profile bars. But is it really necessary just to get to the top and then just wrap around copious amounts of insulating tape? It really does look terrible. Do you really want to build a bike and have that as the final thing you do on your bike? Another thing people don't do is cut this area correctly. Again, these have been taped from the bottom to the top, but there's been no effort at all to cut that tape to any type of angle to follow the ferrule of the handlebar. It's just been wrapped around, cut off, and just taped. And again, just looks a bit tragic. So, with bike tape like this, in fact with most bar tapes apart from cotton handlebar tape, always tape from the bottom to the top and then finish it at the top. Cotton bar tape is probably the only tape that I'll tape from the top to the bottom because it just doesn't suffer from that at all. And it's really, well, I just don't like finishing cotton tape with some sort of finishing insulating tape up here. That looks better, looks the part, and doesn't suffer from any of this issue. So if you're not doing cotton bar tape, tape from the bottom to the top. The wrap of the tape, so the way that you wrap the tape around the bars, is also dictated by hand pressure, your weight, and the way that your hands twist. Your hand naturally twists like that. It doesn't naturally twist like that. So when you're putting pressure through your arm to the bars, your hands will tend to pull back like that. So you need to wrap the tape in the direction that your hands are going to twist, because that will effectively add to the twist of the tape. If you taped the other way, your hand would be unraveling the wrap of the tape. So when you get to the top section here, you should be wrapping around the handlebar like that, so that your hand pressure gets that grip. If you wrapped that way, your hand pressure will be trying to unwrap that tape. Likewise down here, you can watch as many YouTube videos as you like, you can take part in as many Facebook forum chats as you like. Whenever you include handlebar taping, the comments seem to spiral out of control. Do you tape that way? Or do you tape that way? Do you tape that way? Or do you tape that way? It's all governed by how your hand grips the handlebar. I always tape that way because your hand naturally sits like that. Your hand doesn't naturally sit like that. It sits like that. So, if you're ever in doubt about how to do something, always look at the Classic Pros. This is Henny Kuiper, 1976 Tour de France, riding as the reigning world champion. Riding this frame. Just thought I'd put that in there. But you notice his hands. Now he's in full steam, heading towards the finish line. And look at his hands. His hands are in like that. They're not out like that, they're in like that. So I'll wrap my bars to suit how a hand will normally grip the handlebar. Generally, what you need is some scissors, some tape to finish the bar at the top. A lot of handlebar tape kits will come with some sort of finishing tape, but generally it just doesn't stick. You wrap this round, stick it down with your thumb, and before long it'll just start unraveling. So yeah, that might look prettier, but that actually does the job. A little bit of tape that usually goes behind the bracket of the handle of the brake lever. Some type of end cap to go into the end of the bar. And the tape. This is bike ribbon. It's quite comfortable, nicely padded, and just has an adhesive back that you peel off as you tape the bar. Right, so let's start taping some handlebars. First thing I want to do is cut a bit of finishing tape. I'll cut that first and have it ready, because when you've taped your bar and get to the top here, if you then had to leave that and then go and cut your finishing tape, most of this will just unravel. So have that cut and ready first. Now I tend to, because that's quite thick, I don't like to have too much of a thick finishing tape. So I can just unpick the end of that. I will take a length of tape. I'll probably cut that into a 1/3 to 2/3 ratio, just as straight as I can. And there's lots of concentration in this video, so I might go quiet a few times. A little bit more. There we go. Right, so I've now got 2 strips of tape. One more narrow and one that's going to form the actual finishing tape. I'm just going to have those hanging available. On the stem, ready for when I need them. This little bit of finishing tape, just pull the lever hoods back, fold them back over, peel that tape off, and stick that nice and equally, covering the back of that lever bracket. And I generally just push the hood back over, and that just keeps that in place nicely. There you go, covering the back of the lever. Right, handlebar tape. Peel a little off. I try to hold the front wheel between your legs and have the bike angled down over a little bit, so you're working down over so you can see the top of the handlebars. And then just start getting the tape into the right place for which way you're wrapping it. So because I'm wrapping in over, start at the edge, leave a little overlap to have some tape to push the end cap in, and then just firmly put your first wrap on it. Now the trick to good handlebar taping is you need to put pressure, pull pressure on the tape. If you just wrap that loosely, it's going to unravel. So always just push. You can feel how much give there is in the tape, so just pull to where you think you can pull on that tape, and then just start wrapping evenly around the handlebar. Remembering to pull a little bit of pressure onto the tape as you go, and just nice and evenly wrap that tape around. Checking as you go for any gaps that you might be leaving. There's nothing worse than finishing your tape up here, then looking back down here and you've missed a gap. You have to do it all over again. So just check for gaps as you go, especially when you get to the first bend in the handlebar. Just make sure that there is no gap shown and that you're covering all the handlebar. Right, I'm up to the brake lever now, so I'm just going to pull that lever hood back again slightly, keeping pressure on the bar tape so it doesn't slip off. So I'm going to come up, keep the pressure on, and then go back round, making sure there's no gaps, and that's nice and even. Come back round, and as you can see, I'm now wrapping the right way around the handlebar. Push the lever hood back, and you see I've got a gap there. So I can't have that, so I need to go back and fix that gap. Handlebar tape's quite forgiving. You can wrap and unwrap it quite a few times, but it's worthwhile doing it and making sure that you do close those gaps all the time. Come back round. Close that off. Perfect. I'm round the handlebar with no gaps. So now it's just a case of working around evenly to the top of the handlebar. Again, just putting moderate pressure on the tape as you go and trying to keep a nice even wrap distance between each wrap. Just going to take that back a little bit because I've just got a bit of an uneven gap there. Now sometimes I find myself taping handlebars and I'll tape them 2 or 3 times because you're just never happy with the effect that you get. Sometimes you just have to say, yeah, that's just good enough, because you'd be on all day taping handlebars. Keep on going. Again, just putting pressure on the tape as you're at. Now you can see as I get towards the end of the tape, this stuff just gets in the way. So just peel it off now. And now I've just got the tape. I always get to this point and think, am I going to have enough tape to actually reach the centre of the handlebars? We'll see. Oh, just enough tape. I've just made it to the centre foul. And that is looking nice and smooth. Right, so this is the bit that most people don't do. The cut. Scissors. So I know you probably can't see this very well, but you want to get that angle on that tape, which comes out like that, to meet the angle of that centre ferrule. So you essentially just have to use your eye, see where that centre ferrule is, and cut as neatly as you can a line through the tape in line with the centre ferrule. So as you can see, I've cut off that little triangle of tape. And the handlebar tape now looks like that. So that when I wrap that round, this straight edge should form a straight edge against that centre ferrule. Just give myself a bit extra, putting a little bit of stretch in. Sometimes makes the tape go a little bit further. Just about there, nearly. Now I could have just gone to the centre ferrule, not bothered trying to cut anything, and just wrapped loads of insulating tape around. But I'm not going to do that. It's the easy way to do it, not the proper way to do it. There. Perfect. I take my thinner bit of tape, to hold down the finished bike ribbon. I'm going to pull that and stretch it all the way around, making sure there's no bumps in it. So that's got my tape held in place. I then use the thicker bit to finish it off. Make sure that I try and cover the tape edges so I don't get a jagged edge on the tape. And try and finish the tape wrap underneath, not at the front or the back or on top. Just try and finish it so it's underneath and out of the way. There you go. They're perfectly taped one side of a set of handlebars. I'll put the end caps in when I'm finished. But now I move on to the second side, exactly the same. Start from the bottom, wrap in over, do a little loop around the brake lever, continue, and you should come naturally up to following there around. The finishing tape you've got prepared, 2 lengths, cut 1 thickness into a 1/3 and 2/3 ratio. Use the thinner one to actually secure the tape in place, and then the slightly thicker one to give you your finishing effect, which means that you have a thin band of tape rather than the normal inch and a half that most people just wrap around. And that tape there should be on for a long time. Right, come back when I've got the other side done. Thank you. That's it, I'm done. SB5422 now has its bars taped. It has them taped from bottom to top, and I've taken into account all the different ways that your hand might twist and grip the handlebar. Really pleased with that. It's lovely and even, there's no gaps. I've used a thin bit of finishing strip at the top in black, and I was originally going to use some chrome end caps, but I found some plain black. Don't know if you can see them that. Just some plain black end caps. I think that goes with the style of the bike. So plain black, white tape, black cables, black and white livery on the frame, black and white saddle. I think it all really blends in really well. One last task to do with this bike is to find a suitable ferrule for the end of the metal casing to go into the rear derailleur. There's always one task that's sort of like tests you, and I don't think, actually I should, in this space I should have a ferrule the right size, which is thin enough to go on that cable and then thin enough to go into the end of the derailleur. That's all I'm going to do now. Once I've got the gear cable finished, I'll get the back wheel back in, I'll get the rest of this documented. But for now, thank you for indulging in this. I think it's a half-hour long video, but hopefully there were some useful tips in there about how to tape handlebars. Thank you very much.